lot of time together working in the areas of strategic planning, innovation, Baldridge. He was incredibly meaningful and a major contributor to some success that we've had in the past around designs and planning. Jim also has done a lot of this work in the private sector, and he's even stepped down from a board and become a CEO of a retirement community to put the work and the theories that we know work in practice. He actually experienced it directly, so he comes with a wealth of understanding of how to take a system and design it so that it can accomplish the things that people wanted to accomplish. So it isn't about where you're headed and what you're going to do, it's about how you're successful in the long run. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim Lay to have a conversation with you. Jim?
Hey, thank you, Bob. A little bit of background. Bob just described that my career has not been in education. 40 years that included banking, the vice presidency of the Greater Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce, 11 years of consulting, and 6 years leading retirement communities. So you say, what in the world are you doing here? What do you know about public education? Well, I believe in learning through taking part. And so I served a term on the Northwest Local School Board, served as the president there. So board members, I understand your world. I also understand that there's a lot that comes from outside of sectors that can really benefit those who are in places where, as was described in the video, where a lot of traditions. I look at the comment that here's what we were looking to accomplish in 1975 that was based on 1935. So I'm a bit of a disruptor, a bit of an outlier. You've also caught me at the time of day when I am most energized, at least in the short term. So I'm warning you. I just came back at, late last week, I spent 2 weeks visiting my son, a deployed U.S. Marine in the country of Bahrain in the Persian Gulf. And right now, this is the start of the day over there. So I am revved up on my internal body clock. You know, it's funny thinking of things about the education and the job skills. He went to school to be a civil engineer and wound up as an aircraft logistics officer in the Marine Corps. So we're really looking at building skills. I mean, if there's ever an example now, after 10 years, he's doing next to nothing with the education that he had, and he's thriving with the skills that he learned. And so that's really, really exciting to me. So good job on your ROTC. You know, this is just your night. You're getting plaudits from everyone. Morgan, don't let this go. You got $10. You really should make the bike ride to the exit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get involved in what's called a SWOT analysis. Some of you have been through strategic planning exercises. Some of you probably haven't. This is not SWOT with the A for those of you with bad school memories. This is SWOT, S-W-O-T. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses, what's going on inside an organization that give it leverage opportunities and present it challenges. What's coming at it, opportunities and threats from outside of its area of control. What's emerging in the world that can be both an opportunity or a threat to the present reality. And the assumption here is that the present reality of today will not be relevant 3 to 5 years from now. That's really important to internalize. I'm going to say it again. The reality of today is not going to be fully relevant 3 to 5 years from now. Just as you saw in the skill adaptations, in the process changes, in the pictures of the operations within schools, nothing looks like it used to. And the window of obsolescence is shrinking every single year. And by the way, that's true in education also. It's not just education that's facing these challenges. What we want to do tonight is get from you your perspective, coming from who you are in the role you're in, about what those strengths, what those weaknesses, what those opportunities, and what those threats are. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a few minutes, and I gotta, throw Andy under the bus. He stripped away a lot of your easy ones for strengths. Because we got a list out of him that said, you've got teachers who care, you're very effective financially, you've got creative, excellent teachers, you've got a range of extracurriculars and high engagement in them, and that you show as an organization that you have a strong culture of excellence with a level of ambition and a strong sense of community. It used to be the strengths were easy. You've just been stripped of all of those in your input because we've already got those. But what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm going to give all of you just a small supply of Post-it notes. And I remember when I was in school, getting to pass stuff out was the coolest thing in the world. Can I enlist a couple of the students here to do that? Just make sure everybody grabs a bundle. There'll be some extras if people want to because they're wordy. Let them take them. But what I'm going to do is ask you to work individually. A lot of times you'll see this kind of analysis if you've been through it before, where it is a brainstorming session. We're not interested in brainstorming tonight because brainstorming leads to solutions. What we're after tonight is data and facts. What are our strengths? Rather than if we were doing this, we would have a strength. I want you to focus on what exists, not the solution to a challenge that you might see or the opportunity you see. I want to know what is. So I ask you to do it individually so that we don't get a spiral or a set of continuing input on a common thread bouncing around the room. I want your individual perspective. That also means that everybody in the room is fully represented in this outcome, and we get a wider range of data. I'm going to put one other caveat on you. When I ask you to identify strengths, you can only provide two. This isn't about volume, this is about the greatest strengths you see in the Springboro School District. I gave you Post-it notes with lines on them because I'm going to ask you to provide your input in the form of sentences, not 1 or 2 word bullets. Give you an example of what I mean. If somebody says, what's the strength of the organization? Leadership. Leadership can mean a myriad of facets of leadership that you see as strong. If you think that leadership is good, despite Dan's presence, you can still go with that. But tell me why leadership is good. So I'd like 1 to 2 sentences or some complete thoughts on the Post-it so that when we pull these out of here, it means exactly the same information to us a week from now when we read it as it did tonight. We don't have to say, what did they mean by that? So it's going to take you a minute. Now I'm going to give you one last set of instructions, and this is experiential. I'm going to remind everyone how to use a Post-it note. Now that may sound crazy, but I don't want them where you write it on this side and suddenly the sticky part's on this side and you can't even make it stick to the sheet. So my suggestion is you write it with the sticky part to the top in the back. That way when you stick it on the chart, it stays right there. And if I hadn't had the experience over the years of having to correct people who couldn't use a sticky note successfully, I wouldn't give the instructions. So please, what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to start internal, strengths and weaknesses. What I want you to do is identify up to 2 key strengths and 2 key weaknesses. Try to do it from a 30,000 foot level and a 3 foot level. Try to look at it as global as possible, but don't restrict yourself. But what we want is the big, important stuff. Now, from a sophistication standpoint, this is going to be the S in SWOT. That's where the strengths go. Over here, I bet you can guess what's coming because this seems to be a really good intuitive group. We're going to put the weaknesses on this post-it. Now, so when you get yours done, just walk up, place them on the chart, and hang around and read what's coming. Because we want to talk about your reaction or your surprise or what you're learning about others' perspectives that may have surprised you or may in fact affirm something that you're glad that they put down because you really had 3 good ones and you were forced to limit it to 2. Are there questions?
One per sheet.
Pardon me?
One strength per sheet, or you want
One,
two
oh,
strengths?
there, thank you for the instruction. 1 per post-it note. That's really important. I left that one out. A lot of details that I require on doing this exercise, I know. Okay? Have at it. It's yours. Now that we have ROTC on the board, you can continue. Work by yourself. No conversation necessary. Please, no conversation necessary. If you're working, you have one you want to get rid of, hand it to me, and just let me know which direction to take it, and I will. Strength. Strength. More strengths? Both strengths. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Strengths? Both weaknesses. Okay, I'm going to make sure I don't get those confused.
I'm happy to grab if you got it.
And please, be encouraged to come up and read as the board populates.
Weakness.
Still plenty of snacks and drinks too if you need it.
That's not going to count as a strength. We have good snacks.
Nope.
Thank you. Yep. Want me to take a few?
Yep, no, Raj and Connie, one of the reps for the bid.
Strengths.
Got it.
So you distribute snacks.
Sorry, not too quick. Oh.
Take advantage of the fact you can move around on this. Sitting in that seat this long, listening to a one-way conversation is not the ideal.
Yeah.
Like you do it. Spend some time reading. That's good. Appreciate that. And remember, these are confined to things we control. These are things that belong inside. They're not external factors. We'll get to those. And if you make mistakes, okay. No punishment for that.
Well. I'll be up there.
Weakness.
That's what I care about on Wednesdays.
We're running stronger on the strengths right now. Yeah. Okay, I'll take that for you. The two minutes to keep that from happening. Strengths.
Oh, I have
Just get that?
What's that?
Nancy's
No.
little update?
Yeah, but that's not,
I'm thinking that's Green County, isn't it?
yeah, that's Green County, because I have, tonight, tonight we're in good shape. It's 33, so we'll be fine for the night. That's what I thought. And tomorrow, we got 32, but we're at 32, 33. We should be fine Thursday too. Yeah, oh, definitely, just in case there's something, that way we have time to make the calls. Yeah, okay. He went home and good to go.
It's looking like we might be close to having hit our volume limit. I want to start to go over these with you a little bit. It's okay to, you want to come up and read them? I'll try to walk through them as well.
I was gonna go look at it. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, is everybody up there? Is up there? Let me kind of walk you through these a little bit. We can see here. I'm going to walk through the strengths and just give you a sample. I'm interested in your need for clarity on these as I go through them, just so we as a group are making sure we process these with the intended meaning. So let's just start walking through. Springboro has one of the highest per household incomes in Ohio, plus one of the most highly educated percentages. I assume the percentages of residents. Tell me if I'm out of line, okay? Springboro has an excellent reputation, and reputations are hard to change, especially from negative to positive, right? It's easier to take it the other direction. Excellence attracts excellence because you're already attracting those with high socioeconomic status. You're likely to attract more. The drive of the students and parents creates an atmosphere of fierce academic competition, and that's a great thing. That's a great word to describe the meaning of what you're trying to say, fierce competition. Springboro offers students a diverse set of extracurricular programs. Okay, we talked about that one earlier. Student involvement in committees helps broaden perspective. Okay? if you're lacking for clarity on anything of these as I read them, let me know so we can explore that. The curriculum is rich and provides many different ways to learn and/or show learning. Staff professional development is personalized. A community that is filled with parents that care about their kids and their development. Springboro City Schools produces high-performing, academically prepared students. Springboro is a fairly affluent community. This allows our students to come to our school with prior knowledge and experience. The community, Springboro and Clear Creek Township, has a high SES. Thank you, socioeconomic status. Right. Getting a theme I'm seeing. Springboro offers a wide range of academic rigors capable of reaching and challenging students at all levels and backgrounds, starting from elementary school and moving through high school. Whoever that is, I want your handwriting. I've dreamed of writing that well in my life. That's really clear. Our coaches provide great role models to look up to. They're very open and are people to talk to if a problem has occurred. So you may feel alone. So you may never feel alone. That's what that is in there. Okay, big difference. Diverse selection of classes available to all of the students that are easily accessed and provide many opportunities. District has an amazing mental health staff and is committed to helping our students in this very important area. Excellent teachers and parental involvement in education. Our district is actively committed to communicating effectively to the parents and the community. The school district recognizes, along with the state, mental health has become an increasingly tall hurdle to learning and has added staff to address. Strong leadership from superintendent. Dan, you weren't allowed to participate. Teachers prepare students for tests and future assessments such as the ACT and AP tests. Even if students don't want to pursue extracurriculars, they have a lot of elective courses and project lead the way courses in which they can pursue their passions. Students that want to be engaged and be able to figure out materials themselves. Parents and students who value education and are willing to support it. Leadership that allows teachers to be creative and innovative. Current leadership. Dan's outgoing personality interest is in working with others in the community enhances an already strong reputation. The district has parents who care about their children. They're more involved and will volunteer abundantly. Parents who are, on the average, more educated. Longevity of staff who teach in our schools. Many teachers have been here 10 to 20 years. I'm always going to explore something like that with a group. Is that a strength or a weakness in a changing world?
Yeah, it depends on the teacher.
Depends on the teacher, doesn't it? Longevity's not what you're after in that one. You're after experienced and flexible, adaptable, creative. That's the kind of thing. We want to make sure that we're thinking the same way. Safety. Our community is overall very safe. We have a sense of safety, making our schools appealing. The faculty and staff at Springboro are well educated, passionate about what they teach. We have students who care about their education, want to be at school to learn, and enjoy themselves, and are genuinely good people. Finally, longevity of staff. Okay, yeah, another one about that. Any reaction? Really 3 key themes in there. You've got engagement at all levels. Student, parent, community. It's apparent and it's valued. You've got resources that are responding to changes in student needs. Mental health is an example of that, but other areas are talking about that. And finally, you have something more than the core. that is appealing to students to increase that engagement rather than just meeting minimums. Other themes or observations you'd make from what you heard. Those are the things that you leverage going forward in order to take on what we're going to get to in the weaknesses and subsequent threats in particular. Okay, let's look at the weakness side. Need more staffing. Community wants low taxes and cost per pupil, but think of what we could do with more staffing. Okay. We have budget and staffing constraints. Lack of diversity in the community seems to lead to lack of understanding of differences. Our teachers are paid less than many other districts. This may deter experienced teachers from coming here. I worry that although it's extremely important to be fiscally responsible, there's a fine line with spending enough on our educators, the backbone of the district. You know, when I talked about my work at the Chamber of Commerce, I knew program managers whose best way to meet the budget was to collect the money up front for the dues and then forget to offer the services. They had a great financial return. The problem is they didn't deliver any service to the people who paid for it. So that's what I hear you talking about. Individuals who are only concerned about their children and what the school can do for them, but don't care about the big picture. Financial support from the rural area of the township is lacking. They still want more for their dollar. Too much focus on both ends of the bell curve, the really high students and the really low students. Not enough focus on the average. Students aren't always aware of what opportunities are afforded to them when it comes to extracurriculars, so they aren't able to join and take advantage. Community that won't pass a new levy to pay teachers and do even more amazing things above and beyond what we already do. Unfortunately, this is one of life's truest statements. Unfortunately, things cost money. Not enough preparation when it comes to discovering one's strengths and preparing for a career choice. The inhibitions of educators, parents, or administration to try new and innovative things that test the limits of what has already been. Lack of adequate, in terms of size, quantity, administrative personnel to support, guide, and lead educational staff. Students at the lower level don't get to see skills being taught applied by real professionals. Teachers have limited budgets with limited innovation. Awareness of early college credit options needs to be expanded with expansion of post-high school opportunities within the region. Stop the mindset of measuring ourselves against state minimum standards. It cheapens and discounts our maximum potential. That's the old, I like to use the analogy of, do we want to be the shiniest fish in the bowl or in the ocean? What are we trying to accomplish? We ask our students to be leaders, but do not credit a course or lessons in leadership outside of extracurriculars. There appears to be a lack of curriculum within the traditional courses that integrates actually working a job with that content, job shadowing, internships, etc. Should be more information available about clubs and extracurriculars, as well as more motivation for students to continually get involved. Spring Bureau does little to help students explore their strengths and interests with the purpose of guiding them toward the steps to take in and after high school. The outcome is promoted rather than the skills or personality traits that would direct a student toward that outcome. Our teaching, let's see, I did that one. High school schedule is still very traditional, and many have a sit and get mentality. This district has parents who seem to force their children to go to a traditional college. They sometimes do not allow their children to contemplate attending the Career Center. We have a tendency to overemphasize sports and not the arts. lack of understanding within the community at large about the diversity of needs in the community and of families that are struggling. We talked about cost per student being low. Does that mean that our teachers are underpaid? Expectation that a lot can be accomplished with limited resources. While there's a good support system of staff leadership and community, we still lack the buy-in from some teachers and leaders in leadership in the community. A lack of diversity, the intense pressure students are feeling to academically succeed. Interesting juxtaposition with fierce competition. How do you manage the tension? That's a real interesting challenge. Too many residential developments that are going to overwhelm our district. Can I move this to the threat category? Because they talk about something that is external and outside of our control, yet is very, very important to our future decision making. So we're going to save that one. Thank you for kind of introducing the next section of the process. Sometimes too much emphasis is placed on the fact that Springboro does so much for kids at such a low cost. We need to begin thinking about ways to generate more money for our kids as the cost of education increases. And finally, some of our buildings are overcrowded, causing ratios to be rather high. Okay, reactions to what you've heard.
I was asked clarification.
Sure.
You said sit and get mentality. Was that, the person that wrote that, was that like parents have that, or the community, or the way that teachers teach, or the way that kids are expecting to learn? I just don't understand what that one was.
I took that as the classrooms that may be still traditional, where they're more lecture and not hands-on. I don't want to call the person out if they don't want to be, but that's how I took it.
I think that the first part of the statement really clarifies it. High school schedule is still very traditional, and many have a sit and get mentality.
I didn't know it was the same post, but I thought
Yes,
those were two different
yeah,
things.
and that's a great
Okay.
question for
That's why I was
clarification,
asking.
because that puts it in a context.
Yep, okay, thank you.
That's why I asked for the complete sentence, because it helps us give a very clear perspective.
Thank you.
Any other comments or observations? Surprises? Gaps? Unexpected things you thought would appear and they didn't? Cost. That's a fundamental tension that you're talking about in a community where we want it to be efficient, but we sure want to make sure it's also effective. And that is the, what do I would call that? That's the creative tension that drives the district. It's how do you do both simultaneously?
I think living in a wealthy community, so we brag we're 7th highest income and lowest spending for education. To me, that's a really wide gap.
And yet, one of the highest rates in schools.
Right, and performing
So
well.
maybe we're doing it all
So,
right.
But here's the important thing that came up tonight with that, Jim, is that you will hear that a lot from the educators, that that's an issue, because with more money, my goodness, think if we had Indian Hill money and the resources we could give students. But in this room tonight, with students, teachers, parents, community leaders, business leaders, that was up there so many times, that wasn't just teachers talking. That was an entire group from a community talk.
Well, and that's the point that this is not a, as I said, you can save yourself right out of success. It's like running a business. You can cut your way to losing prosperity. There's an optimum, there's not a minimum. And that's where a plan like this is so important, because we're going to be working to identify where are the leverage points we want to be investing the limited resources we have. Because to try to do everything we want to do simultaneously is more than we can afford. How do we decide where to put those resources to what degree? That's what we want to get out of this process. And, one of the assets that is very clearly identified as a potential beneficiary of that is the teaching staff. That's what these would say on the front end. The question is, where do we, what becomes a philosophy as to where we want to be positioned in terms of compensation levels? These are the kind of issues that will begin to emerge. Now I'm going to switch your thinking to things outside of the district itself. A lot of this bordered on community which is a factor that is more external than internal. I let it go because it is so pervasive in the thought of the strength. What I want you to look at now is what's happening in the world. That could be an opportunity. Think of the things you saw earlier today. And a threat. What are the things that are coming at us that we better be ready for, and we're going to have to be successful in them? What are the things that are going to drive the status quo to irrelevance? And what are the things that we can take advantage of out there because of our strengths to go and take advantage of opportunities? So what are those opportunities and what are those threats? By the way, this is harder. But you can't think immediate term. Think 3 to 5 years in your horizon. What are the things that we're going to face from a threat standpoint, but that we could take advantage of and really leverage our success? Opportunities and threats. On that side is the T. The opportunities will be right here. Same process, same outcome. It's all yours.
And we need more post-it notes? Post-it notes?
Yeah, it's an ironic thing that that comment up there says there's a lot of land and it's not going to be vacant forever. The drill is the same. When you're ready, either give them to us or take them up front. Remember, these are external factors. And think about all the facets of what's happening in the world around you, the pace of things, technology, demographics, change in the country, changes in the state, changes in the region, changes in the neighborhood. Think about all those scopes and contexts.
threats, 15. Thank you. Sorry to make you run. We're kind of trapped in this one. Yeah, thank you.
That looks like it was painful there for a minute.
I'd leave today.
You were fine.
Sometimes stay awake. Deliveries are ready.
No, thank you.
Sure.
Wasn't diehards.
What's the say?
Yeah.
Things changed, nothing there.
Yeah, a little different now.
I did, and I'm like,
No problem, man.
How we doing? Any more coming? You got plenty of time. I'm not trying to rush you. Thank you. How we doing here? Any good? Got one coming, I know. What's that? Opportunity.
Might I do it myself?
I think it is, but that's really cute. I think it's a long goal, but that would be But we know we can't find others. Any more? Okay. Let's spend a few minutes. What do you want to hear about first? The threats or the opportunity? What's going to lead you on the upside? We'll do threats. We'll get that painful stuff out of the way. This is our carryover. Too many residential developments that are going to overwhelm our district. I just love the choices of the terms. Too many and that's going to overwhelm us. That just sounds like it's coming at me down the road and I better not get in the way. Don't put so much emphasis on the college degree students. They are not aware of the disparity in the job market, need to be informed about technical skills to be successful after college. Students don't read the same news articles as adults, so they aren't informed as to the factors that greatly impact. Really interesting observation. Focusing on students with high socioeconomic status ignores those who don't have the same financial and parental support and will hurt and alienate those kids from our schools. Human interactions are becoming less personal, which changes the dynamic on how humans make decisions and can fuel negativity and uninformed decisions. Think about that. And what we're not going to avoid it. How are we going to overcome it? Becomes the challenge. The world's not going to change and go back to putting our cell phones away. The world is changing at a super rapid pace. A 3 to 5 year plan will not be applicable in 2 years. That is correct. When I was a banker, I had a senior lender who told me that a projection is good for one thing only. It tells you where you didn't wind up. But you got to do it, to think. And it's the discipline of acting on an annual basis that allows you to keep it relevant in that 2 year window. But you got to take a 5 year shot to figure that out. Technology outpacing our learning capacity. It's obsolete by the time it's fully understood. Talk about a dilemma when you talk about those resources that we had earlier. You have to do it, and you know when you do it, you've made a mistake. Type of dilemma. Social media tends to make the uglies come out. Bullying, suicide, incorrect facts, childish opinions, and arguments. Lots of new developments, housing going on, and no one wants to address the overcrowding of the schools. Okay. Ease of access to College Credit Plus threatens to undermine success to AP and honors programs. That is, ease of access and promotion on a state and district level. Cost of education continues to rise, yet local and state funding remains the same or decreases. That's a true systemic issue. Maintaining status quo is a threat. I remember I served on the board with someone who said it was good enough for me, it's good enough for them. Just takes your heart. It takes it out of me. Social media allows for the spread of positive information, but also creates an environment where negative and false information can be spewed freely. There are no loaded words in that one. Spewed freely. I like that. Other countries are beating us when it comes to education. Students in other countries are learning outside of the box. Too much technology in our schools. Students missing out on valuable social lessons and skills because of overuse of technology. Inability of state leaders to support anything but the status quo. Increasing mental health issues in our population. Increased availability and use of technology that impacts creativity and problem solving. Had a great conversation with my wife, the former special education teacher at the elementary level, asking her as to whether it's relevant to teach how to add and subtracting. Because when we were in school, what they told us is, you won't always have a calculator there when you need it. And the answer is, yes, I do. What are some of those things that technology is creating in terms of decisions that will have to be made? Let's see. Staff, community members that do not see or understand the vision for our students. Increase in new homes, more students, leading to larger classrooms, overcrowding. The way that schools are funded should be examined so that high-performing districts are rewarded for their success. Not passing a levy when the next time comes around
could severely damage the district's ability to maintain such high educational standards. As Cincinnati and Dayton merge, and as the Springboro community rapidly increases in population, our schools face massive overcrowding. The current political atmosphere toward education is very uncertain at both the state and federal level. We're at the epicenter of the opiate drug problems for this country. This crisis can destroy our children and families. We must fight to decrease drugs in our schools. Expanding district with students, but the expectation of lowest spending, keep performing at such a high level. Keeping up with technology and the dangers of it for a district. It's interesting, technology is a real lightning rod in this conversation. There were lots of different, what do you choose? Should you choose more of it? Should you deal less with it? Are you stuck with having to deal with it? So you have to figure out how. There's a big piece of what is becoming it's becoming so many industries' answers to cost issues. And think about that, not in terms of whether it's good or bad, but how much different that will make us. I came from the retirement community, and everything was about how you can get as much technology involved in care, yet the whole part of care was the personal attention. And the answer was do both. And that answer is easy to say and very hard to figure out, but those dilemmas are going to be faced everywhere. Let's look at the opportunities. Let's move to the upbeat side. Aligned with Kevin Fleming's video, how does Springboro want to increase/promote career technical education in partnership with Warren County Career Center? I'm betting WCCC. Okay, making sure I'm on the need to evaluate how to connect students to post-high school credential/career opportunities before senior year. Help students to gain skills before deciding on college. The students seem to affirm it. I just think that's interesting. I remember a parent from Lakota who told me that the world of $40,000 a year career exploration is over. I'll never forget that. Technology and the unlimited online resources that can be tapped into at a relatively low cost. Continue to embrace technology and craft education to reflect our ever-changing technology. Further enhance and foster relationships with city and township to leverage education dollars in a collaborative way. College Credit Plus allows students to prepare for college by actually experiencing it, and will continue to save them money and allow opportunities like early graduation. Stronger momentum for skilled job market, higher earners earlier. Collaborative opportunities with institutions of higher learning, those opportunities are abundant. So many colleges and universities in this region. Social media is a great source for information and learning. You notice that you start to see the same things appearing on each side in terms of the core issue. The applications is where the change is. Growing relationships with the Career Center. We have untapped resources of local businesses to bring the learning alive. Partnerships with colleges, government, business to help determine career needs. Companies and businesses are becoming more open to hiring training students for future career through internships. With better technology, let's connect to show students now careers now and provide real-world experience for them. Increased availability and use of technology as learning tools and resources of information. Let's take advantage of technology to enhance the learning experience. We have great opportunity to utilize technology to help differentiate for our student needs and interest in subject material. New technology leads to giving students more real-life opportunities and experiences. Creativity is being reintroduced into schools as a necessity for the 21st century learning. Now you juxtapose that with what I said before about the experience of teaching staff and creativity being a driving force. And that's going to be, if I'm sitting in Carrie Hester's shoes, the hiring process is going to narrow. Creative with experience is tougher than just experience. Let's take advantage of technology with its own The state is starting to talk about making funding available for students' mental health. Employment is very high right now, which leads to more opportunities for high school graduates. The sky is the limit for this district with how it is viewed by the community. Since we have a higher family income, we should ask our stakeholders for an increase in taxes to be able to increase services to our students. Perhaps increasing taxes for new housing to builders. In other words, find some advantages in the funding sources. We have opportunity for continued and/or expanded partnership with the Career Center to offer expedited paths for students not college bound. We also have the opportunity to promote enrollment in the Career Center as an alternative. And finally, technology extends learning opportunities. Students can experience things without actually being there. Virtual reality. Very interesting. The community's changing. The community has great potential for change. Technology is a force to be reckoned with and a force to be feared. And the job market, the information like we saw earlier tonight is not in the popular thought process. It's what I've referred to sometimes with parents as the cocktail party syndrome. It doesn't sound nearly as good to say my child is at the Career Center as it does to say they're in honors courses. And yet, look at what it told us tonight. These are dilemmas that are facing us. And a lot of this also brought in, what does the community know versus what is actually true? And those are dilemmas, again, that come out of this. Observations, comments, thoughts. You've done an outstanding job. I mean, this is great input. I'm going to say that this group shows me why the students do well, besides these three. And Grace who left. So, any questions or observations? Anything that you say, don't forget to think about or consider in the conversations you're about to begin. What compelling thought you can't leave without sharing. Feeling great. Thank you very much. Excellent work.
Thank yourselves. Very good job. Very good job. February 12th. All right. I used to have a memory I trusted. While he's looking that up, our next February 12th. Same time, same location. We'll have a little bit more information on the where we are, the status, and we'll also be working on survey work within the community. So we hope you can join us again. How many people could make it this time around? How many more?
7 or 8 were not here. 6 of people actually didn't come here tonight because they were sick. They got like the flu bug or something. Unbelievable. I don't think they were all from the same place either.
So you had just said meeting within the community. I see videotape. Is this going to be posted? And
So Scott Marshall's going to be working on a website. We hope to have that done soon where the entire community can go to our webpage, click on a button, and there will be all this information, timelines, work that we're doing. And each one of these 3 meetings, we will upload the video. So people from the community can see what happened here and can know when their voice will be heard. When is going to be the survey that they'll have to take. The link will be on there for the survey, plus everything else. It'll all be there, very transparent. We just got to get that website up.
So on the survey work, I wanted to make sure what you did tonight will help us inform the kinds of questions that we'll ask the community so that we can test some of the stuff that you put up with how deep is it in the community. Does the community have hold the same concepts and fears, positives and negatives all the way through. The community survey will be widely shared. We'll also be doing surveys with faculty and staff. We'll also be doing surveys with students. So those three big groups, basically a subset of what you folks represent individually. We'll bring that information back to you, and you can help inform us as to what those items mean. I do want to reinforce, as I talk quickly, you'll get a better feel on the strategic plan. The strategic plan, at the end of the day, will not give you the answer as to what you're going to do next. It'll be an opportunity to identify key areas that you'll want to study, you want to take action in, and also to help you define that future-ready graduate for Springboro, define the aspirations. So I want you to think in terms of where you want to be 8, 9, 10 years ago, not specific activities as you talk with people. We really want to get this right, to aim the organization in the right direction so that people can make decisions, both professionals and lay people alike. It's been a pleasure to work with you tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned a few things. I hope you have some questions as you digest the process. February 12th, you'll get communications from Dan. As always, the rule is cuss me, call me. I can't solve problems that I don't know about. You may cuss me after you call me because I gave you an answer you don't like. At least give me an opportunity to have conversations. If you need to communicate, please let me know. Otherwise,
Don't leave yet. Couple things, don't leave yet. For everyone in this room, I'm going to make sure you have the contact information for Dr. Summers and Jim Legg. As you go home and as you think about this, because this will be on the forefront of your mind, you won't think about the amazing weather coming this weekend and that we may not have school Monday because of that weather. Oh, wait, we already have the day off. But if you have questions, you're going to be able to reach them. Also on that website, we're going to make sure the staff knows which teacher from each building is represented here, as well as the parents. Because there will be a handful of people that will watch this video and think, wow, they missed something. And it could be, say, a parent from Dennis, and they'll know to get a hold of Amy Romas and say, hey, don't forget to bring this to the next meeting, and so forth. We will also make sure that we contact the rest of the stakeholders who aren't here tonight. Some of them have already set up individual meetings with me because they knew they couldn't be here and said, let's get together and talk through it, which I will. The last thing before you leave, personal story, Greene County Career Center. 2 different years, 2011, 2012. A couple of you have heard this before, but there was a marketing teacher there named Tony D, who, when you're at a career center, at least there, the teacher handed the career passport to the graduating seniors that went across the stage. And they would come over and shake the board member's hand and shake my hand, and then the teacher would follow them and also shake our hand. That teacher in 2011, 2012, each year shook my hand and gave me a ring each year. One said inspire and one said integrity, and gave me about a 2 or 3 word, kind of a whisper. Gave that to me as a gift, as kind of an inspiration. Tonight, I've got something for you, because all of you are here because you believe in this school, and we believe in you. We believe in this process and how it's going to affect this district. So tonight, as you leave, I have one of those rings that you can put on your keychain that says believe. That you can remember that we believe in you, and we thank you for believing in us. And with that, folks, how about a round of applause for these 2 gentlemen for their work tonight? Thank you so much. If you have any questions for them, you'll know how to get a hold of them. And thank you. Have a great evening. Enjoy the weather. I'll see you as you leave. Thank you all for being a part of this amazing process. Now, I want to start off, and some of the students, some of the staff know this about me. I love teaching. I loved teaching all the years I did. So every once in a while, I pull out one of those old teaching gimmicks, a little interest approach. And if you're a teacher, I think you've seen this before. But let me go ahead and pull this out here. I got a little gimmick here. And Grace, you're sitting the closest to me. What is that?
$10 bill.
Are you sure? Check it. Are you sure it is? Okay, one teacher at Dennis actually sniffed it when I did it. I don't know how that goes. That's a $10 bill. But this is a $10 bill, yes. And somebody in this room is going to win that $10 bill tonight. Now, who wants it? If you want it, raise your hand. Who wants it? Of course you do. This gets you 4 Tornadoes and 2 Mountain Dews at Speedway. I know that because I've done it. All right, now watch. Look at that. I'm going to put that thing in just a little bowl. Now, I'm not a magician. It's not going to disappear. But now I've just wadded that thing all up. Look at that. It's in a little bowl. Who wants it? Of course you do. It's still a $10 bill. Okay, hold on here. Let me throw this down. Boom. Let me stomp on that thing. I just ground that thing down to the ground. I hit it again. Now, I just pounded that thing, stomped on it. Who wants it? Of course you do. It's a $10 bill. But here's my point. In education, every single day, whether it's Springboro or whatever school, we have kids that have been we have had kids that are told they're no good. We have had kids over their lives share that there's just not much of a future for them. But you know what's amazing here at Springboro Schools is that we have a staff and we have a community that cares. We have teachers, we have parents, we have community leaders, we have business leaders, we have post-secondary partners that believe in our students. And even though our students can be emotionally and physically hurt, whether by family or by so-called friends, no matter what, they're still worth the world. And even though I stomped on that $10 bill, and I wadded that thing up, and I beat on that thing, it's still worth $10. And our students, our school district, because of those students, is worth the world. And tonight begins the process of making sure that we continue to make this an amazing organization for our students. Now, I said someone was going to get that, didn't I? Who has a birthday this month? What birthday is yours? 2nd of January? January 19th. What is today?
15th.
Congratulations, you're the closest. One of our students. So, we want to start off with, because this is an amazingly diverse group. And I've been given, what, 10 minutes to start?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, well, you know, Scott Marshall back there in the back of the room said I can't introduce myself in 10 minutes. So I'm going to do the best I can here. But what I do want to do is have each person in here introduce themselves. I want you to give me your name and who you are. Are you a student? Are you a parent? If you're a parent, what building are you representing? Are you a business leader? Are you a post-secondary leader? So Brandon, junior student who is a leader. Stand up, turn around, and tell everyone who you are.
Hi, I'm Brandon.
Brandon what?
Thomas.
Good job.
I'm a student here, a junior.
That's awesome. Good job. Next one.
I'm Evan Philippi. I'm a senior here. Hope to graduate at the end of this year in the Baylor University.
Nice job. See, they're overachievers. I didn't ask them to say all that. That's great. Morgan.
Hi, my name is Morgan Smith. I'm a senior here, and just an hour ago, I found out I got accepted into Purdue University.
Hi, I'm Grace Blair. I'm a junior. I like music and playing instruments.
Nice. Now, since they're in the front row and they had nothing in front of them, they got to stand up. The rest of you don't have to. Matt, turn around and introduce yourself. Yeah.
I'm Matt Clark. I'm the Township Administrator for Clear Creek Township, and I'm a lifelong student.
Nice.
I'm Brenna Johnson. I'm an 8th and a 9th grader here at the school district. I'm supporting the junior high for the parent district council.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Kathy Bishop Clark. I'm the Dean of Miami University's regional campuses, Hamilton, Middletown, and Westchester.
Marcia.
I'm Marcia Kelly. I'm a business owner in town, Image Market. I'm on the Athletic Booster Board. I'm on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. And I have 5 children graduate from
Yes.
school.
You're awesome. A great leader here.
Carol Hughes, Springboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm the president and CEO, and I have a grandson in 6th grade.
Very shy boy.
Very shy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm Lisa Shorman. I'm the mother of 3 Springboro graduates and a 6th grade social studies teacher at Springboro Intermediate.
Wonderful.
I'm Nick Palmer. I'm the band director at the junior high and the high school.
And I'm Beth Holtree. I'm gifted intervention specialist for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I've had 2 Springboro high school graduates.
Yes.
I'm Amy Romas. I'm the district educational technologist. I also have a freshman, and I'm here representing my fifth grader from 5 Points.
Great. Kayla?
I'm Kayla Horvath. I'm a gifted intervention specialist at 5 Points, and I have a kindergartner.
We're going to jump across the aisle, Melissa.
Good evening, I'm Melissa Toll, and I'm the Chief School Partnerships Officer at St. Clair Community College, so work with Springboro District with College Credit Plus and Tech Prep.
Chief?
I'm Jeff Kreidoff. I'm the police chief for the city of Springboro. I am married to a Springboro graduate and a teacher of 30 years.
Wonderful. Chris?
Chris Pizzuto, I'm the city manager for Springboro. I've got freshman high school here, and I had a recent graduate who's now at the University of Cincinnati, and my wife teaches 4th grade at 5 Points.
Colleen Bowman, I have a 6th grader and a freshman.
Excellent.
Hi there, I'm Megan Ruffing. I have 3 kids, 1st grader, 2nd grader, and 5th grader in the district, and I'm representing Clear Creek.
I'm Becky Frost. I have a 3rd grader at Dennis, and I'm representing the Springboro Intermediate building, my 6th grader.
Thanks. Tracy?
I'm Tracy Roberts. I'm parent for Dennis, and my girls are both 4th and 5th grade at Dennis currently.
Excellent. Lisa?
I am Lisa Babb, and I have a 5th grade son at Dennis and a sophomore son at the high school, and a Cedarville freshman and Ohio State sophomore, and I'm a board member.
Go Buckeyes. Dave?
Dave Stickey, board member, and I probably taught or coached all of Marcia's kids.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Steve Hoffman. I'm a father of a junior and a 7th grader and a Miami freshman. I'm representing Dennis. I'm a teacher there.
Great. Scott?
Hello, Scott Marshall, Communications Coordinator for Springboro Schools.
John Pinnell, the Executive Director of District Operations for Springboro.
Andrea Cook, Director of Instruction.
Excellent.
I'm good here. Tara Floyd, I'm the treasurer here at Springboro Schools.
Carrie Hester, the Director of Human Resources.
I'm Dan Goods. I'm on the Board of Education, and I have a 5th grader at 5 Points and a 1st grader at Clear Creek.
So you can see the diversity of groups that we have here and the wonderful group of people. But I'm going to pick on 2 groups. All of the teachers, the 6 teachers representing the building, stand up, and the 4 students stand up. Just going to pick on you briefly. When you look at the screen, here is a philosophical statement. If every staff member and student cannot recite the mission or vision of the district, we do not have a working or effective mission or vision. Now, anyone in here who can recite the mission of this district right now, word for word, or the vision? All right, have a seat. That was another $10. Thank you for allowing me to keep that, because those are 2 great trips to Speedway. Here is why we do strategic planning, right there. If you don't know the mission, you don't know the vision. We're not doing something right. And so here is why we do strategic planning. First, what is our vision? What is our vision, and where do we go as a school district? The roadmap to student and school success. That's what a strategic planning process can do. It's going to provide that vision on where we are going to go. It's going to provide sustainability. It's going to provide opportunities when teachers leave, retire, when administrators leave, retire. Because we have a plan, we know where we're going every step of the way, every month, every year, so the excellence that is happening here can continue. It ensures that education is not stagnant. You know, there are schools out there that will rest on their laurels, that will decide, hey, we've achieved this. Our students have hit this level, that's good enough. It's not good enough here. A good strategic plan is not going to allow us to stay stagnant. It's going to allow us to improve. We must have a plan to maintain and increase that excellence. But you know, a great strategic planning process is going to allow for stakeholder input and buy-in. Your input is going to be very important. Your buy-in to this process is important as you communicate this to the student body, as you communicate it to the buildings, to the parents, to the community. And finally, we're an A school. It has been broadcasted out there. 28 schools in Ohio are A's, that's it, and we're one. And I think we may be the largest school in Ohio that got an A. We are definitely the largest school below I-70 that got an A. But Many schools are a lot smaller than us that got an A. But you know what? The A right now means we hit A on the state minimum standards. We've achieved so much on those minimum standards that we are an A. But we can be an A school with for exemplary education. Where can we take the school past what the state of Ohio says we need to even be more exemplary? We can do that. We have achieved already what we need to from the state of Ohio, and we can move on. So ladies and gentlemen, leading this process for us is CF Educational Solutions. Two amazing leaders with us tonight. And the first one I'll introduce, Dr. Robert Summers. Gentleman began his career in teaching, went on to work for the Ohio Department of Education, then became a superintendent at Butler Tech for 9 years, and since then has actually been the first policy education advisor for Governor John Kasich, also led career technical education for the state of Oklahoma, amongst all of this. So ladies and gentlemen, I turn it over to Dr. Summers. Give him a round of applause.
I've worked with Dan for quite a few years on a lot of levels, and I never failed to forget, never try to follow him. His entertainment factor alone is worth a lot. So thanks, Dan. Thanks for you folks for spending precious amounts of your time to be a part of this process. I want to spend just a few moments to tell you about the strategic planning process that you're going to be a part of. You're going to be a key part of it, but not the entirety of it. Some key assumptions about how we do strategic planning. First of all, we assume that the purpose of education is to provide a competitive advantage for students when they get into life. And so we tend to think about in terms not of just graduation, but also that next step, that congratulations, by the way, but also the long-term process. We look at the long-term goal as a life of well-being. We don't presume to know what each individual person believes is what's a life of well-being. But Gallup has identified the concept that life should have purpose. You should be healthy enough and financially well off enough to be able to accomplish the things that you want to do. And that you should have a community that you're proud of and a social network that will support you. So obviously this isn't about being employed, this isn't about going on mission trips, this isn't about going to college. It's about being successful in life the way people want to define it. Springboro, in our mind, we make the assumption that you could be exemplary. You're not worried about survival or getting from the middle of the pack to the top of the pack. You're at the top of the pack, as Dan indicated, on the state minimum standards. So our strategic planning process is going to introduce you to a larger ocean of opportunities and possibilities. That doesn't mean that what we present is what we advocate. We just want to make sure you understand the full realm of options as you go through your strategic planning process and where you really want to target to be exceptional. I use the word beacon. I think you can be a beacon for public education. You can be a standard bearer for what is great and exciting about the education process. And you're well positioned to do that, both as a community, those of you from the community, but also as the school district and the students that attend here and are a part of the process. We also make the assumption, and it's a really good assumption, that the board and the staff will make final decisions on what they want to do, where they want to go with this process. We are a facilitation process to help you arrive at those decisions, help you engage not only yourselves in this room, but also the rest of the community, the rest of the staff, the rest of the students. And so there's going to be a lot of parts to the continuous improvement process. And finally, what we are proposing is that strategic planning is a journey, not a document. How many of you have been through strategic planning somewhere in your life and it ended up with a document and somebody referenced it in a mandatory report somewhere? We believe strategic planning is in fact a living, breathing process that operates within the organization. So not only are we you're going to be a part of the startup phase, but also we'll continue to work with the district for a long period of time around this notion of how do you embed it in daily life of the district. There are key phases, excluding the long-term process, but just straight up, we have a discovery phase. Part of this evening's work is a part of that. You're going to have an excellent presenter from out of Massachusetts that represents some really big thinking about what a future-ready graduate should look like. Not that they're going to advocate for what exactly you want that to be, because that's a board decision. That's a huge, powerful board decision that they have to make. But he's going to present some compelling information that they've assembled over a lot of years. We're going to have a video. We're going to do some SWOT analysis so that we find out what you folks are thinking about as of today. We're going to discover the current status of the district and also possibilities. Possibilities, I've said it a couple times, I want to repeat it again. We will present more ideas than any district can absorb. Our goal is to give you a really nice large menu from which you'll choose what you want to participate in. By the way, we won't be bringing we're not the only ones that will bring ideas and information to the table. You yourselves have ideas about what education could be, should be, how it should function. You'll have ideas, especially the young people, will have ideas about, how could you have made this even better for us? How could you position us better as we graduate from high school? And so those are important parts of this process. Engagement, you're part of the engagement process. You not only represent yourself here, but you heard as you introduced yourselves that you come from all different walks of life, and we hope that you'll go back and have conversations in your circle of friends, in your circle of relationships, so that we enrich the process. Internal and external surveys. Unfortunately, we can't hold meetings with all 6,000 students and all the other people that are involved in the community. But we can reach out. We'll reach out to the community. We'll reach out to staff. We'll reach out to students on surveys that, by the way, your input tonight will help shape what we ask them and what opinions we look for. Finally, internal sharing and feedback. We've already begun to work with the senior leadership on what are the key underlying work habits and work activities that need to be in place so that regardless of where you head or regardless of what you want to accomplish, that you'll be successful doing that. Then there's going to be some visioning. The visioning is a key part of the board's work. The board is going to make decisions, and we'll work with the board to develop their own vision around what's possible for education, and also staff and senior leadership around how the school district functions, not just where it's headed. And finally, there will be a group of decisions. There are some that will occur sometime around May that will be key factors in the process, but there will also be an ongoing process, and those will be made by the board and the senior leadership of the district. Key products. These are kind of milestones for us, starting with a set of performance benchmark or where we are right now. Good news is, being an A school, you got lots to brag about, but we still have opportunities for improvement in a number of areas, and we'll talk about that, and we'll be real candid. You'll be able to see those documents, and obviously the community as well. We'll also work on a set of aspiration statements around what we want the district to be somewhere in the future. And we'll also produce, again, what we call a future-ready graduate definition that will fit Springboro City Schools and the Springboro community. Finally, next we'll do some key work such as leadership, strategic planning, standards, instruction, assessment, finance, facilities. We'll develop a series of key work products that will allow the district to be well positioned to, again, go to wherever you wish it to go. We'll also be working with the organization to produce what we call an action planning process. And this is where the continuous nature of the of the strategic planning occurs, there will be things that we identify today that are opportunities for improvement. You'll find them, we'll record them, we'll put them on a list. But as we all know, as the world moves forward, you're constantly changing what's important, what's a challenge. I don't know about you, but I've rarely had a flat tire. But the other day on the way home from an airport, I had a flat tire. Gee, I had plans on being home at a certain time. But the world threw a wrench, a problem in my life, and so I had to modify the action plans. That's why we put action planning in there, so that it isn't a static strategic plan, that it's a living document, a living process. And finally, we'll help the district over a long period of time make sure that it stays on its initial course of making the changes that you and the community provide input, and the board and the administration decide to do. So that's going to be the process. It takes a short period of time. It takes from now until about mid-May to get the basic documents in place, and then it'll be a long-term process of about a year to really get things rolling in excellent shape. And Dan, it's all yours.
So what you've seen, you're part of an exciting process. This is something that is going to drive our district for many, many years. And this group right here is the advocacy group. You're the group that is going to help us to determine the strategic plan and set things up for the future. But we've got to have a starting point. And I want to talk about the starting point where we're at in terms of performance. First, academically. Right now, let's talk about the report card scores. That's the thing that we always read about in the paper. When that comes out every year, it hits front page. What schools are doing the best, what are doing the worst. We are very proud of the fact that we've got an overall A grade. Largest district below I-70 with an A grade. Amazing success. Third grade reading guarantee. Last year's was 99.7%, correct? 99.7% passage on the third grade reading guarantee. That's phenomenal. This year's December results are further ahead than we were last year at that point. We're already improving in that area. Third, all subgroups exceeded state expectations. That means special ed. That means students who are economically disadvantaged, and every student in different ethnic groups, whether it's Asian American, African American, so forth. We met every standard, exceeded state expectations. Dual enrollment credit. We're right now at 38.9%. Now, yes, people complain that College Credit Plus costs us a lot of money. That's not the student's fault. Hopefully the state of Ohio figures that out sometime and not only gives us money, but gives some back to the colleges too, who lose some money on that. But we've got 38.9% of our students who are getting extra credit at post-secondary institutions. Phenomenal. Honors diploma, 2-year average, 36.2%. Another incredible measure that not many schools, if any, can match in this region. There's a few things we could improve, though, on our state report card. That graduation rate, guys, in terms of the state of Ohio is okay. We met their measure, 96.3%. Not good enough for Springboro. That measure should be 100% or very, very close. Special education rating, we're only at 66.9%. We hate that. We can do better. But that far exceeds what the state says we should be meeting. Special ed math, 62.9%. A measure that exceeds what the state says we should do, but not good enough in our minds. But you know what? There's some other things that we're doing, and we're doing really, really well. Again, the starting point, where we're at, where we can get better. Highest performance index score for the lowest cost per pupil. A performance index score, folks, is kind of a conglomerate score. When you put all of the academic factors together in the state report card, there's a score they do. Our score is very, very high. It's in the top % of all schools in Ohio. But in that level, no one spends less than us. So our students are getting a lot of success for the lowest cost. Here's some other success points. STEM education, as well as technology enhancements in Project Lead the Way, or project-based learning. First grade all the way through 12th grade. 12 grades of students getting this high-end education. Our intra and extracurricular participation. Our goal is to have every 7th through 12th grader at our school involved in athletics, band, choir, drama, or involved in some kind of organization. You know, I've been doing expulsion hearings since 2002. 17 years I've now been doing expulsion hearings. I figured a while back, I have now had over 260 students in my office because they have made the wrong decision and put their future in a stranger's hand. Because they've either been a predator, they brought weapons to school, they brought drugs to school, they've made a bad choice. Of those over 260 students, only 4 were in athletics, band, choir, drama, or some kind of student organization. These are students that come to school at 7:30, leave at 2:30, and have no home of students like this who uplift them, help them with leadership skills, help them with communication skills. And so our numbers, we are trying to improve to get that close to 100% for 7th through 12th grade. Junior ROTC, Morgan's here, she's one of our leaders. In junior ROTC, 2 straight state championships in their drill team, and 2 years ago a national championship. Amazing success. State Auditors Award. Not every school gets that. Only a small percentage of schools, and our CFO, Tara Floyd, and her team receive that Auditors Award. And what is that now, 2-3 years in a row? 3 years in a row. You're going to be hard pressed to find any school in Southwest Ohio that did that 3 years in a row. Our school safety improvements, thanks to the leadership of John Pinnell and our high school principals, as well as our great police chief, Jeff Kreidoff, and John Terrell, police chief at Clear Creek Township. We've been able to add safety enhancements to our buildings. We have more police officers in our buildings, making sure students are safer than they were before. Other success points, Clear Creek preschool. Step up to quality. The rating on how good our preschool is, 5-star award, the highest award you can get in a preschool. We have 28 AP offerings at the high school. STEM Fest. This year will be the 4th year, correct? 4th year of STEM Fest. A group that has brought a whole bunch of STEM leaders, STEM organizations, colleges from all over Ohio here at this year's event, March 11th, after school on that Monday night. We've implemented the Springboro Leadership Academy in its 2nd year, where we have either teachers or current administrators in a year-long program to help develop their leadership skills to either be a better leader in the building or someday to be an administrator here at Springboro Schools. We want to develop our bench strength to be able to hire administrators within to make sure that those leaders have that servant leadership quality we're looking for. We now have personalized professional development, thanks to Andrea Cook and her team. Something called Springboro Gold, as well as book studies, where teachers are able to go online for very personalized professional development to make them better teachers. And finally, thanks to Scott Marshall, we have regular parent and community communication that happens through either Facebook, Twitter, our website, email, television, it's all over. And we appreciate the communication that we have. Actually, we had heard today, over 8,000 people receive our organization, our school update over email. Over 8,000 people. Over 60% open that and look at that. That response rate is better than any school you're going to find. An important thing I want to end with before I turn it back over to Dr. Summers. Andy Andrews, one of my most favorite authors, if you like to read. He said once, while it's true that most people never see or understand the difference they make, or sometimes only imagine their actions having a tiny effect, every single action a person takes has far-reaching consequences. Your actions tonight and over the next couple of months are going to have far-reaching consequences, positive consequences for Springboro schools. And I thank you. I thank you for being part of this team. Tonight you're hearing the start of what the strategic planning process is. And you'll see tonight how important this is and how your voice will matter. Dr. Summers, back to you.
Thank you, Dan. going to be doing a whirlwind of activities to tell you a lot of stuff. I hope you bear with us because in just a little bit, we'll let you tell us. So we'll have a pretty good balance. What I'd like to do now is actually turn over the program, get the technology to work. Turn it over to Andy. We got you on the screen. Andy Calkins is, what's that?
He's live right now?
He's live right there.
He had to listen to all that stuff just
Live.
Okay.
Live. Right.
Almost in person.
Yeah. Andy Calkins is a person that I got to know a long time ago as we roamed about the notion of how do we build a network of fantastic schools across the country and spend Gates money to do it, as I recall, was our goal. So, yeah. Anyway, Andy's group has spent a great deal of time working on the question of what's it take to be successful in the life of the future, or a life in the future of this country and in this world. And his research and information, I think, is going to be incredibly valuable to you as you think about the process of future-ready graduate. He represents a group that has worked with hundreds of schools across the country to be exceptional. Schools like Vista United School District that have transformed much of what they do. They are in a class of schools that I think Springboro could be proud to be competing with. Not that you'd be a part of those groups, but to be competing with. And tonight I've asked Andy to come and present to you a little bit about the research that they've done, the information they've gathered, and how that process informs the educational process. Andy, I hope I didn't mangle it too much. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. And no, you didn't mangle it at all. I appreciate that introduction. You left out the most important part, though, which is that although I'm beaming myself into you from here in Massachusetts, I'm in fact an old Ohio boy myself. Oh, that's right. Proud graduate of Cleveland Heights High School, class of something back there. Go Tigers. My senior year, our basketball team went down to Canton McKinley, beat the pants off of them for the state title. At least that's my memory of it. It could be that they beat the pants off of us. I'm not exactly sure. But the point is that I was born and raised in Ohio. My dad moved us into downtown Cleveland so he could run for the Board of Education, and he served on that while I was in elementary school and middle school, going to Cleveland Public Schools. And so my heart and soul really still reside in Ohio. So I'm extra glad to be talking with you. And I was really interested in getting to know you through Bob. He knows you guys pretty well, and he helped me get to know you a bit myself. And what I'm going to do with you, telling you right now, you should be seeing a screen that says what learners need to thrive in a world of change.
We got it.
You got it. Okay. As Bob said, we, the nonprofit that I work with has worked now for 8 years nationally to help flesh out what the heck we all mean by something like future-ready graduate. We all know the future is happening right in front of us. We all know there are implications for the competencies that today's high school graduates need to have in order to thrive in this century. But we're only gradually becoming aware of what the implications are for our schools, our school designs, our learning models, the experiences of students in the schools, the roles that students and teachers have. All of that is in a big fluctuating moment right now, with, I think, arguably the most exciting set of experiments going on nationally to lay out what it is that schools can do to help students, in fact, become genuinely future ready. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight for about the next 10 or 15 minutes. This is a quick glimpse of who we are. We're a nonprofit. We get grants from foundations. We turn around and challenge the field. That's what our name implies, Next Gen Learning Challenges. We are working with educators across the country to imagine and create and live what we call Next Gen Learning, all organized around 21st century definitions of success. And our work right now consists mainly of learning along with our grantees and our school partners, and then turning around and helping the districts like Springboro that want to do this and would rather not, experience all the, bumpy knees and the ditches in the side of the road and everything else that all these other districts have experienced. And so you're the lucky ones. You get to benefit from what they've learned and then create it to suit your own context. This is not about following anybody's prescription. This is about coming up with Springboro's best answer to the challenges that you're facing. Here are the challenges that your graduates are facing. Lots of instability in the labor market as everything changes in the demands that employers are making from today's graduates. And I know there are employers and business folks in the room, and you've got a lot of good involvement from that community in this work, and there's hardly anything more important than that. A tremendously complex work and learning landscape. The landscape and the set of challenges that today's high school graduates face as they try to figure out what the best move is for them after high school is 20 times as complex as anything we faced when we went through school. And a widening opportunity gap in employability, post-secondary attainment, social capital. The people coming out of high school and college who have these 21st century competencies, know how to learn, can work really well with others, and so on. They're the ones who are going to thrive. And woe to those who don't have those kinds of capacities. These are the kinds of traits that today's employers are looking for, right? We all know that. You could have come up with these words yourselves if we had challenged you in this meeting to do that. But, what we're asking for from almost all of our high school graduates these days, and it looks more like this, which honestly looks exactly like what I got from Cleveland Heights High School in 1975. And that looked an awful lot like what Cleveland Heights High School looked like in 1935. The problem is that everybody and their cousin has a reason why we can't really move the rock. That's Grant Lightman's phrase from his good book, Moving the Rock. They look like this, right? This is not what we're being held accountable for. It's not the game the colleges are playing. What's so wrong with the ways we were taught? There's all kinds of reasons why education has resisted making the kinds of moves that other sectors have made over the past 3 to 5 decades. And yet, we know as people, through our own learned experience, where schools should go. When we think about success and what a high school diploma should represent, we can think of the most important competencies that today's 10-year-olds need to develop, and any room full of adults today will come up with a reasonably good set of 21st century skills. We all get that. And we can all say, all right, yeah, but how do schools support the development of those kinds of competencies? But as individuals, we all know what powerful learning experiences felt like for us. You know, you can ask that question in a room full of adults, and you should do this in your community. And people will raise their hand and they'll say it was drama club, it was the football team, it was Model UN, it was, you know, something else, almost always extracurricular. If it was a class, it was a really gifted teacher. But in every case, it was the experience of being challenged to develop mastery and a form of autonomy and real purpose, finding relevance in the learning. And even around rethinking assessment, you ask what's something you're good at? How did you know you were becoming good at it? None of the answers that come back will be bubble testing. You know, there'll all be some form of experiential performance-based assessment. You know, we all know these things, and yet our systems have not kept up with what we know. So understanding all that, with about 100 schools and school districts nationally about 5 years ago, we started developing this project, the Next Gen Practitioners Through Lines, what we call it, the My Ways project. What they told us was that you could really categorize everything that they're doing in this work around these 4 questions. Understanding why this change is so urgent and making sure everyone is part of addressing that question, determining what the new North Star is for the competencies that students need if they're going to thrive in today's world. And then these 2 hows around the learning experience design and around all of the ways that we measure student progress. You know, it all fits into that through line. And our grantees and school partners that we're learning from would tell us, you have to do that in an integrated way where you understand the connections, you know, all the way from that final how back up to the understanding why, because they're all deeply connected together. All of this is based on a vast amount of research that I won't go into. You can find it all at nextgenlearning.org. You'll see a link right there to the My Ways project, and you'll get more research than you probably want to read. I think Bob may be one of the few people on the planet who's actually read most of the My Ways research. It all comes out of frameworks like this. This is a way to save yourself from having to read all those reports. We did all that for you at the request of our school partners, as you see in these dots around the country. And have created My Ways not to say, you know, every community out there should now become a My Ways community, but to say, let's just help all of this work become more understandable, comprehensible, and interoperable. You know, rather than having a Tower of Babel of lots of different language, let's just help identify where all these major success definitions overlap, you know, so that we can all tell the story pretty easily. And they do overlap. You know, I'm showing you right now the My Ways set of competencies. None of these things are big surprises, except perhaps this last one, wayfinding, which our research told us is sorely underaddressed in most high schools, and yet, especially with the complex landscape that today's kids encounter, is a set of skills that they just have to develop in high school. All of this is being organized around a set of tools that help schools and districts come up with a different way of understanding and thinking about the job to be done on behalf of their students. This is a graphical depiction of a student success plan, right? That says, yeah, nobody's saying math and ELA proficiency are unimportant. It's all important, and we care about all of these competencies for all of our students. This is another way of looking at it. Out the third baseline, Bloom's taxonomy of thinking skills, right? And on the first baseline, real world abilities and successively more authentic environments where that learning happens, right? And so when you think back to your own days in high school, again to my earlier question, a lot of the deepest learning that you did happened out there in center field, you know, where there was an intersection of Bloom and real world. But the experience of too many kids these days, even in really, really good districts, is you know, either a bunt or a line single down the third base line. But everything else on this whole field of learning is put into extracurricular land, where the lucky kids, the motivated kids, the kids with parents who push them are the ones who get it. But not every kid does. So as you heard your superintendent say earlier, you know, your commitment there in Springboro is to help every kid experience learning across the entire field of learning here. Not just the transmission-based learning that every kid has been fed for the last 60 to 80 years, but the whole field. That's what today's high school students need. And this is what it looks like. You know, these are classrooms across the country. Lots of agile, active, inquiry-based, project-based learning classrooms where there's 5 different modalities of learning going on. This is a public school in Chicago called Intrinsic. This is a school in Silicon Valley called Design Tech, in an old warehouse building. You know, people walk into these schools and they say, wow, where's the teacher? Well, you know, that's because kids are learning from each other. Kids have the agency to help drive their own learning. They are really developing the skills they're going to need the minute they get out of high school. I have this slide here because this is an example of one of the schools in our network. This happens to be in Nashville, Tennessee. These folks are proving that you can go deep on social emotional learning and 21st century skill building. And that can be the best way to have your kids' skills show up really well on state tests. You know, it does not have to be all about drilling and killing. When kids see the relevance in the hard, disciplined work that some academic skill building requires, that's when they actually learn it, not when they're just being asked to help the district show up well on the tests. Bob will help guide you into some of these My Ways resources in the future. We're hoping to do some further work with your community and with Dan's team in the district. And with that, Bob and Dan, I will hand it back to you and wish again that I were there to be with you in person. I would love to be meeting you all.
Thanks, Andy. We've got a few minutes. I'm going to see if, I don't know what you see right now. Andy, do you see the audience a little bit?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Any questions? We got a few minutes. Any questions? Andy, you blew them away.
I've got a question for all of you. Thinking about what I just talked about and the fact that this is happening. You know, this is not pie in the sky. This is happening in places all across the country. Probably 500 schools I could take you to where you would say, wow, something really different is going on in these schools. What are the things that are in place in Springboro that feel most important for you in making you ready to move in that direction? And I've got my own little list here, so I'm ready to answer my own question. But I would love to hear from all of you. What are your primary assets that make you feel that Springboro could become a statewide and national leader in all of this?
You mentioned the club population that we have. Is it 120 clubs? What's the number of clubs available to high school?
It's got about 40 or 50 right now. Yeah.
I'm seeing heads turn, but I can't hear anything.
Oh, she talked about the the extracurricular activities, clubs, and activities that they've got already available?
We probably have, Andy, 40 or 50 intra or extracurricular clubs at the high school. Probably entering, what, about 10 or 15 at junior high, I'd say.
At least,
we're adding more and more every year. We're trying to give opportunities. We have almost every sport that Ohio High School Athletic Association sponsors, which is exciting. We also have an amazing music program, whether it's band, choir, strings, drama, very involved with a lot of those things. I don't know how much of my presentation you heard, but just junior ROTC, that's our largest high school organization, over 150 students. National champion 2 years ago, state champions last 2 years. Actually, their lead commander is one of the 4 students here with us today. So the students just don't exist in the organizations, they excel, which is exciting.
What other things do you think are the assets that we should be aware of?
Frank about bringing every cent of value out of the dollar. Lived it, not do it. I think that's
If you didn't hear, Andy, they would win the award in the state of Ohio for the Countless Award. The cost per successful student is incredibly low. So he was talking about the cost effectiveness, which also means that you're free to do other things rather than just maintain the status quo. Had a comment back here.
I was going to say, as an educator, like the thing that I most appreciate is the parents that we have and the product that is brought to us. We have great kids who really want to learn, and they come to school wanting to learn because of a lot of what I feel is the parent support that they're giving and our community's emphasis on education.
Did you get that, Andy?
No, not here.
Okay, I didn't think you did. She talked about the importance of the parent engagement, parent expectations, the community's expectations for high-quality education. Kids here don't need to be helped to understand the importance of education as they roll into the system, which gives them a heads up, an advantage. Another one?
Well, I'm gonna sound like a suck up now that she just said that, but I was gonna say the educators, because I have one child who has he's very bright, but he has different learning needs, and the rise to the occasion that teachers have done with him in finding like innovative ways to engage him has been phenomenal, like things that I would never have thought of that, you know, we've implemented in our everyday life as well.
Excellent. So returning the discussion that faculty and staff are very creative and innovative, especially for, in her case, a son that has different challenges in learning. So.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
I also like to say that the staff really, they care about us, they connect with us. Like, I still remember the teachers I had in 6th grade. I had Mrs. Sherman, my social studies teacher. And I still remember some of the great projects that I've had with her. I remember connecting with my teachers, and it still continued throughout high school. So there's just that dedication from when I moved here in 6th grade all the way to my senior year.
So student, obviously talking about the way, I like the word that captures it all to me is that the staff cares about the students, and they care enough that it is visible and felt by the students.
Now, Andy, what you just noticed was one of our students that spoke up. We actually have 2 seniors and 2 juniors in this room tonight as part of this process as well. So our customers are here helping us too.
What's that?
Here.
Oh, did you hear Dan? Andy?
No.
Okay.
I'm hearing you, but nobody else.
You will be the first person in the history of humankind that says they didn't hear Dan. So, at any rate, he talked about how we have actual students, and I know I told you about that. You were really impressed that the students are going to be involved in this strategic planning process. Nothing like asking the people who depend on services to make a difference in their lives, right?
Yes.
Well,
thank you for coming.
We, Andy, again, we appreciate having you here this evening. Hopefully it was informative as people as we move into the next phase of the meeting.
And Bob, let me take 30 seconds to give my own answer to that question based on what I've heard from you and observed tonight. I think Springborough's got three things that are vitally necessary to do this work successfully. One is a sort of baseline foundation of strong culture and strong capacity, a tradition of real excellence in the district. This is really hard to do if you're not building on a position of strength already. Second, you've got ambition. You've got gumption. You've got leadership with vision. Who's obviously we should all be happy with the kinds of outcomes that Springboro gets, and there's impatience, about wanting to go beyond that, do more, live up to what your graduates need in the 21st century. And finally, you've got community, and there is not one of our districts and schools nationally that are doing this without the strong enlisted vocal support from all stakeholder groups across their communities. And having forums like this, having the participation of parents, business people, students in particular, your voices are vital to all of this. That's, you're in a good place. You've got those three things, go Panthers. It's going to happen.
Thanks, Andy.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
We are going to do one more thing, and Jim Lay will be up to have a conversation with you. What I want to do is present a little video that will be along the same theme. You heard Andy talk about the 4 quadrants, and he covered them real quickly. I would point out to you that, again, that was their conception of a future-ready graduate. That doesn't mean that that's where you'll end up in the next 3 to 4 months, but it informs you at the depth and breadth. I would encourage you to look at the studies and reports if you want more detailed information without reading all 12 reports. If you just want the highlights, let me know and I'll direct you to the right place. But this one talks a little bit about the economy of the future and where we are right now, and further hopefully stimulate some thought on your part as you discuss things here just a little bit.
Education is core to our economy, but in order to guide our educational system and maximize future income, we must understand the misalignment between education and our workforce. In my pursuit of higher education, I have earned 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and am working on a PhD. In total, this has cost me over $150,000. I've done all this because I believe formal education is important. Part of this belief came from seeing charts like this, presenting a correlation between higher degrees and higher income, showing on average that a person with a college degree earns far more money than the average person without a high school diploma. This perceived higher earnings for having a 4-year degree has fueled a college for all philosophy, causing educators and parents to encourage going to the university, any university, to major in anything in pursuit of future job security, social mobility, and financial prosperity. This philosophy has increased college enrollment, resulting in 66% of high school graduates in this country enrolling in higher education right after high school. That's 2 out of 3. Initially, they are deemed the successful ones, but what you won't see advertised is the reality that most drop out, and only a quarter of those that enroll will finish a bachelor's degree. Only after these few graduate do many of them start exploring careers. It is here that they discover that their degree may not have prepared them for the world of work. You may be well educated, but not every degree is direct preparation for employment. This misalignment between degrees and job skills causes half of university graduates to be underemployed in what are called gray-collar jobs, taking positions that do not require the education they have received at a cost that is more than they can afford. Conventional wisdom suggests that a university degree guarantees a higher salary. But with rising education costs, a shrinking job market, and oversaturation of some academic majors in the workforce, this old advice is now a myth for a majority of students. The economy and the world have dramatically changed. Over the last 3 generations, we've gone from 13% of the population stepping into a college classroom to 60% attending some form of higher education. In 1960, when taking into account all jobs in the American economy, 20% required a 4-year degree or higher, 20% of technical jobs requiring skilled training, and 60% were classified as unskilled. But what's the right percentage to meet the labor market demand for tomorrow? In 2018, Harvard University predicts only 33% of all jobs will require a 4-year degree or more, while the overwhelming majority will be middle-skilled jobs, requiring technical skills and training at the credential or associate degree level. A 4-year degree may have many benefits, but think about the people you know who, from an economic perspective, inefficiently spend time and money to get a degree that perhaps they didn't really need for the career they are in. The true ratio of jobs in our economy is 1 to 7. For every occupation that requires a master's degree or more, 2 professional jobs require a university degree. And there are over half a dozen jobs requiring a 1-year certificate or 2-year degree. And each of these technicians are in very high-skilled areas that are in great demand. This ratio is fundamental to all industries. It was the same in 1950, the same in 1990, and will be the same in 2030. The hope for encouraging university education is that as the number of university-trained workers increases, the demand for their services in the workplace will increase as well. Unfortunately, this is not so. The whole pie may get bigger as the labor force and the economy grows, but the ratio will not change. The reality is, there will not be more professional jobs available within the labor market, and some professional jobs have been replaced by technology, or are being outsourced. Well-intentioned attempts to send more and more students straight to the university will not change the types of jobs that dominate our economy, nor will a college-for-all mentality mask these labor market realities. The college-for-all rhetoric that has been so much a part of the current education reform movement is often interpreted as university-for-all. This message needs to be significantly broadened to a post-high school credential for all. Students at various educational levels have left school without employable skills, setting up our children for failure, costing them and taxpayers millions. All while the labor market is desperate for highly trained, skilled technicians. So how do you position yourself for high-wage, in-demand jobs? Let's say you were considering a career as either an electrician or a business manager. You would find that the average annual income for electricians is $51,000, only about half of the $105,000 average wage for management occupations. So at first glance, it looks as if getting a bachelor's degree in business is a no-brainer, but adding skills and ability into the picture adds a whole new dynamic. What if you have the potential to become an excellent electrician, but lack the skills and ability to be an excellent manager? Then you should be looking at projected incomes towards the bottom of the pay scale for managers and towards the top for electricians. You would then discover that electricians near the top of the pay scale make around $86,000, far higher than the income of a manager near the bottom of the pay scale of $52,000. Now this is just one example, but the concept is true throughout all industries. The claim that you will make more money with an increased amount of education is not necessarily inaccurate, it's just incomplete. That advice is based just on the averages, but no one is perfectly average. Everyone has unique skills, talents, and interests. In fact, the income for the top individuals in a wide variety of skilled jobs that require an industry credential or 2-year degree is far higher than the average income for many occupations that require a 4-year degree. Nationally, associate degree earners range between $27,000 and $68,000, while bachelor's recipients earn between $34,000 and $97,000. But this data only accounts for the 25th to the 75th percentile of full-time adult workers. This means that 25% of associate degree holders earn more than $68,000 annually, and 25% of bachelor's degree holders earn less than $34,000. Our world has changed, and in this new economy, the university degree is no longer a guaranteed path towards financial success as it was for previous generations. And even if you do earn one, that education alone may not be enough. In today's highly technical, knowledge-based economy, having hands-on skills and perfecting what you're good at can be more valuable than getting a degree in something simply to get one. Employers want to know what you can do and what you can do well, not just what degree hangs on your wall. Since new and emerging occupations in every industry now require a combination of academic knowledge and technical ability, we need to ensure that we're also guiding students towards careers and not just to the university. So before enrolling in classes or deciding what you're going to do next in your life, step one is self-exploration. In addition to your interests, really analyze your talents and strengths. Step two is career exploration. Understand the jobs available, the income ranges they pay, and evaluate the skills they require. Identifying an area that appeals to your interests, skills, and the labor market may be your first career. And then you can develop a tentative career plan, complete with multiple training and education options. The key is to align your interests and abilities with your first career choice and the education and training you'll need to receive. This alignment will help bring your future into focus and ensure your position at the top of the pay scale in your chosen career. What all this data shows is that success in the new economy is as much about acquiring the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed for in-demand occupations as it is to be well educated. Both paths may work for you, but education combined with technical training is how you ultimately secure a competitive advantage in the new economy. Community colleges are in an ideal position to provide over 70% of tomorrow's workforce with an education combined with applied technical skills, industry-driven credentials, and specific preparation for employment. Being a skilled craftsman or technician is highly valued. Investments in career education programs in high schools and community colleges will help all students obtain an education which includes technical training and preparation for the workplace. Ultimately, this is how all students can be successful. In the new economy, both education and technical skills are the new currency. Will you be ready?
Hopefully that gives you a little bit different perspective than maybe what you've experienced, and if you wait long enough, it'll tell you again. What I'd like to do next is you've been very, very patient. Oh, now. Speaking of technical skills, what I'd like to do next is introduce a person, a colleague that works with me on, you want?
Just real quick, no, I want to take a quick break. I want to give a quick announcement. Is that okay for you?
Yes, yes.
We're going to take about a 5 to 10 minute break, but before that, I do want to make sure, again, thank you for being here and being a part of this. The next part's going to be very important, and between Dr. Summers and Jim Blay, they'll explain the next part. But the next part is to hear from you, the stakeholders that came. The administrators and the board members will not be a part of this next section. We are observers here. We may look over your shoulder, but we don't want to infect your input because of whether what we're looking for, our background, etc. We want to hear from you. So you'll notice that the administrators, board members will not be a part of the groups for this next part. But before we do that, before we bring everyone back, I think a 5-minute break's enough. Men and women's restrooms are over here to my right. We've got snacks, we've got drinks. Stretch a little bit, kind of work it out a little. Come on back in 5 minutes. Let's roll.
I'm glad you remember the break, man.